Hello again and welcome to the part 3 of the butterfly. Using the fine marker, I have drawn first the few inner designs. And this time I'm planning to fill up the patterns in a border shaped empty spaces. So I decided to draw more of them in the butterfly. Just to give it a bit of different kind of look, I made these elongated curves, elongated loops, and then added a border to it. Tried to do symmetrically on both the side of the wings. I gave you a few vertical borders as well, some curved ones too. And I was satisfied with the space enough for my entangling. I just started thinking on what new fills can be done inside it. Before I start directly inside, I again decided to use some practice, and so I took a 3.5 by 3.5 inch square. With my marker I drew 4 dots on the corners, made a border. Whenever you practice on any tile, this should be your first step. I made these rows to lay my hands on some patterns which I can fill up the elongated shapes with. I made different sizes as there are many parts of the butterflies to be filled. The borders can simply be filled by parallel curves throughout, or maybe straight line parallels. You can also simply put both of it alternately, as on vertical or horizontal. You may color the alternate stripes you obtain from it. If you don't want to give so much of heaviness, you can just add a few lines inside alternate ones instead of completely darkening it. So all these are the tips and tricks to understand how much shadow, how much depth, or how much, I would say, the darkness you want to give to your pattern. You can also draw simple circles and fill up the outer area, or let's say a snake-like shape. Fill up the alternate ones or keep it empty, or just shade it a bit however you want, not an issue. This will just give different kind of patterns and different kind of 3D look. Remember the spiral fill, you can do that also in this. Again, this is a straight one, you can use the circular one as well. If you don't want to really fill up the whole thing, just give these shades on the edges and it will give you a 3D look as it is. I made this alternate double line curved patterns, giving it a knot-like look, rather a braid-like look. Again, you can decide to fill it up in however design you want. I just made this 3 lines and I colored the inner one. You might as well, instead of the inner one, color the outer ones. Just give shade to the space which is there inside. It will give you a depth. the empty space, you decide to keep it empty or just fill it up with some other design. Just make it repetitive so that it looks like good entangling. If you really want to give a denser look, many dots can do the needful. I made these jumping curves, bouncing curves on both the sides of the border, and then filled up the inner space so that these curves can stand out. When I'll do the pencil shading to this pattern, you will understand how what kind of depth this pattern gives, which will probably be in the next or part, let's say 4 video. I made these dots and connected it to the opposite dots, which was in the middle of 2. Made these curved lines joining them, making like a V, but not a straight one, a curled V. Just added on few shades on one curved triangle, while on the other side of these curved triangles I just made a straight line pattern. This made it look different. Apart from this, you can draw kite like a pattern. In this you just need to draw dots in the center, make an inverted V, and then join it to the center of the opposite ones. You decide how you want to fill up the inside of these overlapping kite pattern. You can just add on one aura inside or make a fine border, or just shade it if you want to give it a leveling. If this looks empty and if you really want to fill it inside, you just add one more aura and color up the inner space, or just give some random pattern. I guess I've practiced enough of designs to start filling up my wings of the butterfly. Firstly, I'm going to just shade up the tentacles by giving it a depth. I didn't want it to completely darken it, as I just wanted it to stand above the flower, the pollens, as it is the background is too dark. So I just gave it a bit of leveling by drawing these random lines, just strokes on both the side. And then I kept these first few parts and the eyes of the butterfly's body empty. Just darkened it, that's it. The outline, that's it. I'll just make a close-up view a bit so that you can understand it more. When I outlined it, I made sure that I make few thicker borders at the edges and also at the bottom. By this, it automatically showed the different chambers kind of structures which are there in the body of the butterfly. I made this shaped spiral inside, gave few bands and shaded the alternate ones like the honeybee kind of pattern. For the last few, I just added few shades so that it stands out from the bottom or the background, which is of the flower pollen. That's it. That was the body of the butterfly so far. And I thought of making the first border of this wing, and I used those hopping pattern. I just drew a fine middle line and started drawing these curves. Made them on both the sides. I made sure that they are alternate, as in the curve of one border fits into the space which the opposite two curves make. And then I filled in the empty spaces, giving it the thick border to the whole pattern. I repeated this pattern parallelly on the other side, as well as on the two wings which are there below. Then I drew this curved V pattern which we just practiced on our tile. Again, I made this border, this kind of entangling on both the sides of the upper and both the sides of the lower wing as well. I made these parallel lines on the inner curved triangles here, while the outer ones I made lines which were emerging from within, concentrated on one point. Again, darken the outline of the shape. Once I finished these two patterns in all the four wings, I decided to move on with the next pattern, which was the spiral one, which I made on these sides. I made curved spiral that fits in this space. I didn't think much about the shapes, the size actually of the spiral, but I made sure that it changes, it varies according to whatever availability of area I have. I just filled in the outer spaces and did the same thing on both the sides of the wing. Also repeated on the bottom two wings as well with the same pattern. I left one thin border empty, and then on the next one I made these parallel curves, and I guess yes, I'm pretty much satisfied with my outer edges of the butterfly. Moving on to the inner parts in my next video. See you around.